community that we've built here. So this year is our first year where we've actually have satellite rides. So we have a ride in Baltimore, Toronto, and in Kansas City. So at this moment, we're going to go to our satellite ride in Baltimore, Maryland, where we're going to meet Allison Singer, the president of the Autism Science Foundation.
Hi everyone in Saxon Woods Park. I wish I were there to greet you in person, but I'm on the beautiful campus here in Baltimore at T. Rowe Price, our new diamond sponsor. There's a tremendous crowd. There's so much excitement and enthusiasm here for our very first satellite ride in Baltimore. And as Brian said, we also have satellite rides today in Kansas City and Toronto. It's so exciting to see how the ride has grown, and that is thanks to all of you. We so appreciate all the wonderful jobs you have all done raising funds for autism research. And all of the funds that are raised today will go directly to support research that will help us understand the causes of autism and help us develop new treatments for autism for people of all ages. You know, 1 in 54 kids in this country now are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. And it's up to us to fund the research that will help them live the most meaningful lives possible. So again, many thanks to all of our sponsors, to all of our riders, to everyone who's here today in Baltimore and at all of our new satellite locations. Again, have a wonderful ride. I know we're going to have a great ride here in Baltimore. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Melissa. Lives possible. So again, many thanks to all of our sponsors, to all of our riders, to everyone who's here today in Baltimore and at all of our new satellite locations. Again, have a wonderful ride. I know we're going to have a great ride here in Baltimore. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Melissa.
Thanks, Allison. I'd like to give a special thanks to Robin and Danny Morris. They're great friends of ASF and have been tremendous supporters of this event and our 5K walk. It's now my great pleasure to welcome to the stage the co-chair of our 5K walk, Paul Morris.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Wall Street's Rise Far for Autism Research, benefiting one of my favorite organizations, the Autism Science Foundation. My name is Paul M. Morris, and I am the chair of the family-friendly walk at Saxon Woods Park. My team, Polly's Promise, has raised over $20,000 so far this year for ASF. Thank you to everyone that donated to Polly's Promise. I am so happy to be here because I have autism, and my family has been supporting autism research since I was a child. Science is so important to understanding what people with autism, and the Autism Science Foundation focuses on science and research. I am excited to go on the walk today, like I've done every year since the walk started a few years ago. Thank you all for coming, and I want to thank my family for all their help the walk, for always being there for me. I also want to thank ASF for all the great work that they do. Go ASF!
Thanks, Paul. I'd like to take a second to highlight our top sponsors for their generosity. We've already heard from Allison on site of one of our new diamond sponsors, T. Rowe Price. And I also want to thank our second new sponsor, diamond sponsor, FTX. And now I'm going to cue Carrie Leonard over in Kansas City. She'll be on the screen.
Good morning from SIVO in Kansas City. Joining me today are my colleagues, Jeff, John, Sergey, Matthew, Mika, Matt, and my husband, Dee. We are very proud to be kicking off our ride here at our Kansas City Chiefs and Royals stadiums. And today we'll be riding along the newly completed phase 2 of the Rock Island Trail. Also joining virtually are SIBO colleagues in Chicago, Stephanie, Will, Tony, Ben, Tia, Alex, Doreen, Renee, Kathy, and John, as well as Phil, Raul, and Lik Hoi in Singapore. On behalf of all of our virtual riders and our colleagues riding in New York, Lieutenant Tim, Adele, Kathleen, Jean, and of course, Brian, we are incredibly humbled and proud to be representing SIBO, and we're thrilled to ride alongside all of our colleagues on Wall Street and around the world in support of the imperative work of the Autism Science Foundation. Thank you, and we wish you all an awesome ride.
They're going to be up here. They're in the show.
Are we in?
Too bad, and like they practice
Do I need to-
and rehearse so much. No, we're doing it through the.
Ooh, from the computer. That's good. I can get closer.
Yeah, you can get closer.
Ow!
Okay, well now you just look short compared to everybody.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah,
There we are. We are. There we are.
Oh, we're live.
Are we on? Are we?
Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
Do we need to?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I hope you can all hear me. So a big hi from the north, where the temperature today is above 20 Celsius, believe it or not. And I don't know how to translate it in Fahrenheit. Never got that far in my education. But I want to tell you, we're very proud to be with you. Last year, we participated as a team in a virtual race. This year, we took it to the next level, and we're organizing a satellite ride over here with other teams participating. You can see on my other side some representatives of the Wilderbord team. You see the entire NEO team, and a great opportunity for us to come together, do some exercise, but most of all, I would say, support a great cause. the Autism Science Research Foundation. So we're very proud about that, very happy about that. I also would like to thank all the sponsors that joined us here in Canada. And I think this is only the beginning of much more for the years to come, and all those who donated. And I'd love to get a cheer from our entire team over here for what's going to be a great day.
Thank you to all our sponsors, more than 50 in all, for your terrific support of Wall Street Rides Far. Now let's talk about today's ride and walk. I'd like to hand the microphone over to Eric Epstein, the president of our ride producer, Global Impact Productions, to say a few words about the course.
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, riders. Apologies for that delay in the feed and had to get across the border. So I think that was the time lag. What a gorgeous day. This is, I have learned, the very first large-scale in-person event that has happened in Saxon Woods in a year and a half. So welcome back to in-person. We want you to have fun today, but even more importantly, we want you to be safe. So I'm here to talk a little bit about safety on the route. A few quick reminders. First, to the riders, this is a fun ride. It's not a race. The roads are not closed, and there's no prize for coming in first. You're all winners today. A reminder to be COVID safe. Please wear masks at all times you're off the bike. And this is important for the riders. Leave some extra space in front of you because you are riding into the respiratory stream of the person who's riding in front of you. Do wash your hands when you use the facilities and use hand sanitizer. If you need a support vehicle for any reason today, you will be required to wear a mask inside the vehicle. Obey all traffic signs and signals. This includes traffic lights and stop signs. You must wear a helmet at all times. If you do not have a helmet, please come see me at the stage. Now, our route is marked with signage throughout. So for the riders, the signs are yellow with black text or arrows, and Brian and Melissa are holding some signs up for us. So you can see signs to let you know when you're going to be turning ahead, arrows at the turns. After you make a turn, we'll have a confirming sign for you so you know you made it correctly. If you don't and you actually blow through all of those signs, then you get the orange whammy sign. Go back, you missed the turn. Just go back, usually not more than 50 yards, and you'll be right where you need to be. For the walkers, the signs are white with black arrows on them. Please note earphones or headphones. Do ride single file. The roads are narrow out there. If you need assistance, pull off the road, call our dispatch number. It's the number on your wristband that you got to check in. It's beautiful and sunny today, but that does mean you'll dehydrate. Please make sure you drink plenty of water and stay hydrated. We got lots of water for you. For the 20 and 12-mile riders, there is a rest stop. We call it an Oasis in Rye Brook. Enjoy that. And now for the walkers. We're going to send the walkers off after the riders. Please let the riders go first so they don't run you down. You're going to exit under this same arch and then head around the parking lot and then into the woods behind me. I strongly urge you, walkers, grab a spray of bug spray before you get into the woods so the mosquitoes don't get you. We'll have someone at the entrance to the woods with the bug spray. When you come back out of the woods, you're going to turn right, make your loop back around the parking lot, and come right through that start-finish arch that you see behind you. Other than that, we just want you to be safe and have fun, and I'm going to hand the mic back to Brian to kick off the family routes.
All right, let's let the riders queue up at the starting line. Hope you guys like the bubbles this year. We heard that crypto people like bubbles, so we just kind of added that. Nice little touch. All right, so let's get all the riders at the starting line, and Melissa will get you guys sent off in a moment.
Melissa, are you ringing the bell above your head? Okay. Yeah, no, I just want to make sure I'm in the right spot.
All right, guys. So we'll see you back here at the Finish Festival. 3, 2, 1.
some nice outfits today. Very cool. Where's now? I wasn't sure, but great outfit. Very well. This is all the sponsors. Thank you.
Hello, riders, crew, family, and friends. What an awesome opening ceremony, right? I'm sure you guys are all feeling the energy and excitement that we're feeling here remotely and that our riders are feeling up in Saxon Woods this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in virtually. My name is Cassandra, and I'm your virtual host from Global Impact Productions. Right now, all of the riders and crew are up at Saxon Woods getting ready to ride. And here you can stay tuned because we'll be showcasing a virtual workout followed by ASF content before our closing ceremony, which is at 12:15 Eastern. So hope you guys stick around and enjoy.
A few years ago, I was leading a support group for parents who had children on the autism spectrum. On this particular day, we were focused on helping to address some of their children's challenging behaviors. A Black father was seated across the room from me and began to describe his son's challenging behaviors. And in many ways, it was a story that I had heard before. He said that his son often tantrumed when he exited stores because he seemed to associate stores with getting new toys. And I said to the father, one strategy could be to allow his son to carry a favorite toy that he already owned into the store. And I'll never forget the somewhat quizzical look that came across his father's face when I said that. And then he said something to me that reminded me that his experience of America was different than the white mothers who were also a part of this group. He said, "I can't do that because they'll think I stole something." He was telling me about his experiences as a Black man in America, and they were ones that I immediately identified with. And in that moment, I began to flash forward in my mind and contemplate if the experiences of this Black father were so different, then what would be the experiences of his Black and autistic son? The term intersectionality was coined 30 years ago by a Black legal scholar named Kimberly Crenshaw. It was meant to refer to how issues of race, class, gender, or other personal characteristics intersect to affect people's experiences and livelihood. But that simple word, intersectionality, reminds us that for many individuals on the spectrum, they are simultaneously negotiating multiple minoritizing identities. They are autistic and Black, autistic and LGBTQ, autistic and poor, or some combination of all of these. And so I think there really are a series of questions we have to ask ourselves as a field. If we truly want to advance issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the first and probably most obvious, but I think the most important question is, why does this matter? It matters because some of the more replicated findings in autism research have to do with issues of racial and ethnic disparity. We find differences in the timing and identification of autism for Black and Latinx children. We find racial and ethnic differences in the quality and accessibility of services for these groups. We even find some differences in symptom presentation, with studies showing that Black children are twice as likely as white autistic children to have a co-occurring intellectual disability. We've also found that autistic individuals who also identify as LGBTQ have worse physical and mental health outcomes. These issues of disparity along the lines of race, class, sexuality, or gender are obviously not confined to autism. In many ways, we are in the midst of a social justice movement where many groups are rightfully demanding their seat at the table. But in order to advance these issues within autism, we need to have some common understanding of what we mean by social justice and how it is truly defined. You've likely all seen some variation of this image on the screen, but it only refers to one pillar of social justice, and there are four. It refers to the pillar of equity, the idea that some groups start off with unequal access to resources and power. Another pillar of social justice is access. Participation is another pillar, meaning that we truly provide opportunities for people to make meaningful and real, have meaningful and real decision-making input. And finally, rights. And we're talking equal and effective legal and political rights. And really, all of these pillars, the pillars of equity, access, participation, and rights, all of them will have to be addressed if we want a social justice movement in autism that is truly representative, inclusive, and fair. And so the second question we have to ask ourselves, and some of you may be asking right now, is why do we need a social justice movement? There was a recent study published by Obaid and colleagues in 2020, where they randomly assigned 493 white college students to read vignettes that depicted an autistic child or a vignette that described a child with conduct disorder. Those vignettes were also paired with a photo of a Black child or a photo of a white child. They also had those students take an implicit association test, which is a computerized measure that can measure implicit racial bias. And what they found were within group racial biases. So white students were more likely to associate autism with white children and conduct disorder with Black children. The opposite trend was found for Black college students. So what are the implications of these findings for our field? So this map reflects the current levels of implicit bias in the United States. The darker areas of color mean that there is more implicit bias in those geographical locations. I want to be clear about the white areas. The white areas mean that we don't have enough data in those geographical spaces to visually depict implicit bias. It doesn't mean that implicit bias is absent in those locations. But let us consider if this is the current level of implicit bias in the country, and we tend to find within group racial biases, what does this mean for reducing disparity, racial and ethnic disparity in autism identification when many of our diagnosticians and healthcare providers are white? And also remember that implicit racial bias is only one form of implicit bias. One can have implicit biases related to disability, sexuality, class, or other personal characteristics. But also addressing issues related to diagnostic disparity is really only one reason that we should embark upon a social justice movement. There are really some other valid reasons. One being that if we don't move in this direction, we'll continue to privilege the voices and experiences of some groups over others. We'll also potentially continue to exclude perhaps talented individuals from the field who may be the very ones who could address some of our more vexing challenges and research questions. The final question we have to ask ourselves is, what does social justice look like in autism research and practice? What does it mean to go about the hard work of moving towards action? So I'm a researcher, so I naturally think we need metrics, some way to measure the progress we're hoping to make as we try to advance issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I also think that I feel compelled to say that Me giving more talks on this issue should not be one of those metrics. But we have to determine, what does it really mean to achieve racial equity in autism? What does it mean to have a field that is more diverse and inclusive? Are we referring to making sure our study samples are more racially and ethnically diverse or socioeconomically diverse? Are we referring to recruiting more researchers of color into the field? Are we referring to doing more research on families or children from underserved communities? Are we referring to making sure that more autistic stakeholders are involved in research planning and implementation? Or are we referring to all of those things? Perhaps we are. I certainly have some ideas on things I think we should consider as we move forward in this direction and try to embark on this idea of social justice and advance these important issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. The first is, when appropriate, our research methods should always give voice to stakeholders. So we should use such methods as community partnered research methods where appropriate. Second, we should recruit and retain more researchers of color, including autistic researchers of color, into the field. We also need to figure out how to best support these groups, so that researchers from these groups, so that they don't continue to feel marginalized. Third, I feel strongly that we must consider the strengths and not just areas of deficit and risk for families of color or those who have been historically marginalized. Our research should serve to promote resilience and strength and not reinforce stereotypes. And finally, we just have to keep the conversation going. It's easy to let these issues backslide as other issues arise in the field. But we're going to have some difficult conversations about how issues of systemic racism, ableism, and xenophobia affect the lives and outcomes of autistic individuals and their families. You know, and in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., who spoke about the fierce urgency of now, he said, "This is no time for apathy and complacency. This is the time for positive and vigorous action." And so I want to leave you with the words of a Black autistic mother, words of a Black mother of an autistic adolescent, who I think speaks to the fierce urgency of now.
I could start with, what does it mean to be a Black mother, period? So for us as parents, there is always an anxiety. I like to say that the feelings, the memory, and the spirit of historical trauma and the story of Emmett Till just lies within our womb, within our soul in the Black community. The fear of a Black mother. I mean, I always say Black folks are not allowed to be unapologetically themselves. They are not permitted to be neurodiverse. And we know this on a lot of levels. So my biggest fear is, if an officer approaches my child and my child begins to stem, have to put his hands in his pocket to take out one of the little things he likes to hold on to help him with his anxiety. He's got one of his little trinkets or things that he holds on to and reaches into that pocket to pull it out to calm himself. What's going to happen to my son?
So I really think until we can answer the underlying question that this mother is posing, of whether her son, because he is Black and autistic, is much more likely to be the next Dante Wright, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, or George Floyd, then we still have work to do. What is going to happen to her son? Thank you for having me today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. That was an amazing, very, very thoughtful presentation, and I think gives us a lot of pause about things that we need to be doing better, or things that we're not doing at all. So my question is, what can institutions, organizations, training opportunities, and funders do to help move forward social justice?
Yeah, I think, these issues are obviously complex and they're going to take systems level reform. So it's what can we do at different levels? So what can we do at the level of the provider, where we can do a better job around training and how we think about these issues of inequity and how they may be sort of exacerbated within the healthcare space, or those of us who see individuals on the spectrum. Certainly at the level of funding, we can think about how funders can put forth funding announcements that may really help to make it a priority that we're addressing some of these very big, perplexing issues that continue to hold us back. We continue to see study after study showing racial ethnic disparity in a variety of ways. And so now let's fund some research that really helps us to address some of these issues. So no one group is going to be able to do everything. But I think, part of it is just to continue to have these conversations, but also think what we can do given the space we're in and the place we occupy to address some of these issues.
And we did get a question, one great question, many great questions, but someone actually just flat out asked, as a white clinician, how can I help more families of color, both in her practice and in her research?
Yeah, well, first, the fact that you asked that question is shows awareness. And I think some of this stems from a lack of awareness. So this person may know the work of Lisa Cooper, who did a lot of the work in the healthcare space around how doctors talk to minority patients, that white doctors tend to be more dominant in their conversations, ask fewer questions to minority patients. So I think about the interactions we're having. And are we asking the same questions? Are we treating people in an equitable way? Or having conversations, though, about with people from those racial and ethnic groups to ask, are there things that you think this group is experiencing right now that would be important for me to think about? As we know, a lot of folks right now, in particular, those of us in the Black and Asian community are dealing with trauma, racial trauma in a variety of ways. So that's certainly impacting us. And so that may impact how the parent of a child with autism talks to you on that day because of what they're experiencing. So, but I think it's important that you ask that question, but the awareness is a big part of it.
One more final question is, how do we know that, what are some specifics about metrics that we can use to ensure that we're doing the right thing and doing less of the wrong thing?
Yeah, I just put forth some ideas, but I think it's part of the conversation we need to have. I hope all the things I suggested were important. Certainly, I think we want our samples to be more representative of the actual population. I think we want more scholars of color to be recruited and retained in the field. I think we want more autistic stakeholders to have real and meaningful input into the research that's happening. So how do we track these things? How do we measure these things to make sure that they're happening, and to make sure that we're continuing to advance these issues? Because what I don't want to happen is us to stop talking about these things, because they are important. And the only way we're really ever going to address them is just to be honest about these conversations and continue to bring up these topics.
again for this honor to be here, and Jonah for those kind words of introduction. You can go to the next slide. My disclosures are listed here, and if you can go one further slide. So to start out with, the biology of cannabis is fascinating and I think often very misunderstood. There are two main species, sativa, which was first identified by humans at least 10,000 years ago in China, and indica, which comes from the Indian subcontinent and was described more like 3,000 years ago. Those two species, if you ever go to a dispensary in California or Colorado, things will be labeled sativa or indica, but that's essentially like saying someone's a purebred Eastern European when they may be 3 generations intermixed with other people from around the world. These species have been highly interbred, so they're not pure anymore. The other thing it's important to recognize, there are many cannabinoids, more than 500 cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids, which give cannabis its smell. But the two that I'll be focusing on here are CBD, which is now fairly famous. It is not psychoactive. It works on probably 15 or 20 different receptors and neurotransmitter systems in the brain. The one we think is most relevant for epilepsy is the GPR55 receptor, but it also works on the TRPV receptors, which are important for pain and some affective behavior. The serotonin receptors, which may be very important in its anti-anxiety effects, and it has more than 15 anti-inflammatory effects, so it's quite an interesting compound. It is, as I said, not psychoactive. THC is the more famous of the two over time, and it is the psychoactive one. It is the one that gives the high of consuming cannabis, whether inhaled or orally, and it specifically stimulates a receptor that's well known, the CB1 receptor in the brain, and the CB2 receptor, which is more widely distributed outside of the brain and primarily involved with immune function. Next slide. So this slide summarizes, and excuse the busyness, but within some of these 8 broad mechanisms, you can see number 3, that there are about 10 different pro-inflammatory cytokines that CBD will downregulate. So CBD is actually quite a remarkable anti-inflammatory compound, which may contribute to its effect both in epilepsy, in autism, as well as other disorders such as inflammatory bowel syndrome and many autoimmune disorders as well. Next slide. This is a table, histogram, that summarizes many, more than 35 preclinical models looking at various cannabinoids to treat epilepsy. So I'll focus your attention to the 2 bars on the far right. The one right before the end is the delta-9 THC. That's the active ingredient in cannabis that makes people psychoactive and enjoy it. This has largely anticonvulsant properties, as you see from the green portion of the bar, which is about 65%. There's a tiny bit where it aggravates seizures in animal models, some where it has mixed effects, and then about 30% of the time, THC does not have any effect on seizure threshold in these animals. By contrast, both CBD and a related compound that I will mention because there's an autism trial going on, CBDV, are almost all about 75–80% anticonvulsant, and the remainder is no significant effect, but they have no proconvulsant or mixed effects. So in a nice way, CBD and CBDV are a bit cleaner for epilepsy concerns than is THC. Next slide. So this is some work that was done by several different groups, and essentially it's true for so many of the compounds we've learned about, the opiates, the benzodiazepines, THC, that they work on endogenous receptors. It's not that plants or some other organism makes a compound and it magically works in our brain. It works in our brain because we have compounds that we make ourselves that mimic the effects of these compounds. It's true for THC and it's true for CBD. So there's a lipid in our brain called LPI. I won't give you the long name, but trust me, I can give it to you, anyone who's interested. And it goes on the top side to excitatory neurons, and it further stimulates them. And this was identified by Salantev's group about a decade ago. And more recently, in work that we hope will be published soon, Evan Rosenberg at NYU, Dick Chen, who heads the Neuroscience Institute, myself, and several others, showed that LPI also leads to a decrease in inhibition. So LPI is an absolute nightmare for disorders in which we think there's too much excitation and too little inhibition. And this includes epilepsy, autism, and schizophrenia, where this E to I ratio is off and there's too much excitation and too little inhibition. CBD remarkably breaks this cycle. CBD blocks this GPR55 receptor, which is where LPI normally stimulates, and it leads to a decrease in excitation, and it prevents the decrease in inhibition. What's even worse about this is that when LPI binds to GPR55, it stimulates excitation, it shuts off inhibition, that leads to seizures, and seizures themselves lead to elevated GPR55 receptors, creating what is essentially a positive feedback cycle and can make epilepsy and seizures both worse. Next slide. So this slide highlights some of the pharmacology of CBD, and I think this is an important slide for anyone who has ever considered using CBD themselves or given it to their child or family member. CBD, like all cannabinoids, is highly fat soluble. It does not do well in water. It would separate, and its absorption overall when taken orally is quite poor. Overall, with a standard empty stomach or standard carbohydrate meal that most Americans consume, about 4 to 6% of CBD is actually absorbed, which is terrible. Most drugs that you take, like acetaminophen, ibuprofen, they're 90 to 99% absorbed through the GI tract. If you take CBD with a high-fat meal, could be an avocado, could be olive oil, whatever, the absorption can go up to 20% or perhaps a little bit more. CBD is a drug. I know that for many people it comes from a plant, so it seems like it's natural, but it really is a drug, and it is metabolized in the liver, and that can give rise to some issues. In the table below, I'll just point out a couple of things. This is a large dose of CBD given to normal volunteers, 1,500 milligrams. But if you look at the numbers in parentheses, I'm not worried so much about the Cmax and the area under the curve, but if you look at the number to the right, 87.9 and 78.2, that is the coefficient of variability. And it speaks to the fact that these are normal controls under identical conditions. There's so much variation in how much is absorbed between people and probably within the same person between doses. Next slide. So how do we learn about any drug, any treatment? We need blinded trials. And again, I think it's really hard for lay people in times to understand this, and doctors too. We feel like if we've seen something, we believe it, it's got to be true. But doctors, patients, we're all wrong most of the time. So the way to limit bias is to make neither the clinician nor the patient nor the family member have any idea whether they're getting the active compound or a placebo, and randomly assign patients so you can get rid of other things like socioeconomic status or geographic location or co-medications, because if they're randomly assigned and you have enough numbers, this should reduce all of those confounding variables. And it's also the only way to figure out if a drug causes side effects, because placebos can have 80% side effects in some studies. And so it becomes really important as well. Next slide. So this, I'm just going to go through quickly. This is from our New England Journal study of Dravet syndrome with cannabidiol. And what you can see here is what are large doses, 20 milligrams per kilogram per day for the average adult who's 60 kilograms, or about 130 pounds, lighter than me. That would be 1,200 milligrams per day. And this looks at the phase 3 trials, and you can see there was quite a statistically significant difference, less than 0.01, in the reduction in seizures between the CBD and the placebo group. Next slide. And this looks at 2 different studies in Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. One was by Elizabeth Thiel, who Dr. Justy just mentioned, and that was the one on the left, and again showed a very significant difference. And the one on the right is one I was involved with, where we first compared 2 doses, 10 and 20 milligrams per kilogram per day. And the take home is that both doses worked. It turns out the 10 milligram per kilogram day actually had significantly fewer side effects. Not surprisingly, it was half the dose, but the efficacy was only about 4% less. So this is the recommended dose that we currently have. Next slide. As I said, CBD is a drug. It comes from a plant, but if you take 100 pounds of coca leaves and you get it down to 10 grams of a white powder, that's cocaine. And although it is natural as anything on the planet, it's very highly processed and it's a drug. And the same is true of CBD. CBD is thankfully much, much safer than compounds like that, but it still is a drug. So we see more somnolence, we see more GI problems, diarrhea, decreased appetite, weight loss, elevation in the liver function tests. There were more infections and there were drug interactions. And the rate of withdrawal was about 7 to 8-fold higher on patients getting CBD. And the two most common reasons were elevated liver function tests and tiredness or somnolence. Next slide. So there are other forms that have been tried in other trials, both CBD and CBDV. And in focal epilepsy to date, the treatments have not really done better than placebo. It could have been a dosing, could have been other issues with these two studies, but two studies to date have really failed to show that CBD works outside of Dravet, Lennox-Gastaut, and more recently, data in tuberous sclerosis complex. Next slide. So let's turn to autism now. And the first study that was done was one by Zynerba using a transdermal synthetic CBD. It was open label, meaning there was no blinding. The patients and families knew what they were getting, and the doctor knew what was being given. And they looked at several measures of anxiety and behavior, and it actually did quite well. Overall, the reduction in negative behaviors in this group, which was Fragile X primarily, was quite positive. There were adverse effects, but most were mild and none were serious. Next slide. This is another trial that was reported, I believe, from an Israeli group looking at a common ratio of, it should actually be 20 parts CBD to 1 part THC, about 53, mostly children, but some young adults treated for up 1 month to up to almost 2 years. And there were significant reductions in self-injury, in hyperactivity, in sleep problems, and in anxiety. Although do note that, for example, sleep problems, 45% reported more problems. Hyperactivity got worse in a few percent. Self-injuries, behaviors got worse in about 9%. So again, and this is the expected noise in any system, because some of these individuals are just going to have spontaneous worsenings in their behavior, but there may also be real negative impact. Keep in mind, individuals in the general population fall out into a bell curve, how people tolerate meds and how they react to them. I believe in the autistic population, that bell curve is even spread out wider with more intersubject variability. The side effects in the study were very similar to those seen with CBD alone, somnolence and decreased appetite. Next slide. This is yet another study done from Israel, from Iran's group, with a CBD-rich cannabis, and they looked at the global clinical impression of change. And 61% of these children with autism, and we're focusing here on behavior, were much improved according to the parental raters. Among the side effects, problems with sleep, irritability, decreased appetite, and rarely psychosis in a child who received a high THC compound. Because in this study, they started with primarily CBD, but if that wasn't effective, they gradually increased the THC content. And there's another study that reported on an even larger group, 188 patients with autism, treated with a primarily CBD, but a 1:20 ratio with THC. And again, improvement was significant here, 30%, moderate in 54%, slight 6%, no change 9%, and none were worse. And similar side effects, restlessness was a bit more common in this study. Next slide. So there are some ongoing trials in autism. I'm aware of two. There probably are more. One is led by Javier Castellanos at NYU, and that uses CBD from GW Pharma. And there's another one looking at CBDV, also from GW Pharma, now acquired by Jazz Pharmaceuticals. And this is a collaboration between Eric Hollander and myself. Eric is the PI at Montefiore, and NYU is the other site in the study. These studies are both recruiting now, and if anyone has interest, they could reach out to me or directly to Dr. Castellanos or Dr. Hollander if you're interested. But these are trials that we await the results from. The CBDV trial is a blinded trial, and I think we need to get more rigorous data I think, it's intriguing, the Israeli data with THC with CBD. Keep in mind, one of CBD's effects is to actually block some of the effectiveness of THC. So at the 20-to-1 ratio, the effect of THC is probably quite small because CBD actually does have some negative impact on the CB1 receptor, whereas THC is a pure stimulant of that receptor. Next slide. And then finally, I'm not going to spend much time here, but there's an emerging large science that CBD has anti-anxiety properties. The current anti-anxiety drugs all have some side effects, especially the serotonin agents. Benzodiazepines work on the GABA receptor. The benzodiazepines can be addictive. I just saw a patient today, 20-year-old in college, who used Xanax to go to sleep for 2 weeks, stopped it for 2 days, and then had his first tonic-clonic seizure. So the withdrawal from these can be bad, and they contribute to many overdoses in the United States. Obviously not a concern so much in the autism population, but it very much is in the overall population. CBD has an anti-anxiety effect, which seems to be modulated by its effect on the serotonin receptors. Next slide. And you can go forward with this one. I think it's several parts. This is a chronic stress model in mice, and you can just see again, CBD here significantly increases the open, when mice are put out, they're much more social in this chronic stress model when they've been given CBD, so it reduces anxiety. And the next slide. And here's a public speaking slide of just normal adults who have some social anxiety. And you can see the CBD arm in blue significantly reduced the anxiety, I should say in red, reduced the anxiety compared to placebo. So again, there's good evidence from animals and humans that CBD is anti-anxiety, and its mechanism of action on the serotonin receptors would lead us to predict this. Next slide. And then finally, just a couple minutes, we are now living in an unusual place. I think well over 30 states have medical marijuana that is available. And so if people get, like in New Jersey, New York, where I practice, I can write a prescription. I can say high CBD, but they can go into a dispensary and someone with a high school education could say, no, I'm kind of an expert on epilepsy and autism. I think you should be on the high THC. And so literally there's no rigorous data, no rigorous safety data, no rigorous efficacy data. And, literally people in dispensaries without much medical knowledge at all may be making strong, and this has happened to many of my patients. And then of course there's the internet, where there are hundreds of thousands of experts happy to give advice on dosing of CBD and THC for autism or any other disorder. And I have no doubt that they're all well-meaning people, but all I can say is, having treated hundreds of people with autism and probably 300 or 400 people with epilepsy with CBD and THC combinations, I would say my knowledge is quite limited as far as what I truly know outside of the epilepsy trials. Next slide. And so some of the challenges with medical cannabis are that religion is belief without evidence and science is doubt despite near certainty. And as I said, I think in the dispensary community, in the lay community, there's often a conviction that we have the answer. It's like Trump supporters and Biden supporters. On the extreme side, they're 100% sure they're right, and yet they disagree completely. And I think it's not terribly dissimilar here. It's a little bit like politics. And I think ultimately we need science. And there are many human biases that are now well documented in many popular lay books by Kahneman and others. And there are so many biases that we have, and we tend to support our own biases when we read something, even if the data actually contradicts what our bias is. So keep in mind, no matter how smart you are, how high your IQ, whether it's Dr. Jesty or myself, we are all biased, and we just have to keep checking ourselves. And that's why I said science is when you're 99% certain, you still have doubt. Next slide. And so just to conclude, CBD and THC both have nicely demonstrated anti-seizure effects in animals. CBD has been proven to be effective in treating seizures in 3 rare epilepsy types. There's no efficacy to date of CBD or CBV for focal epilepsy. We need data for other epilepsies. We need safety data on the efficacy of THC. We really have very little, especially in children. And in autism, we have a lot of supportive open label data but we absolutely need randomized controlled data to have a good sense of where to go. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be used. And like I said, I've treated hundreds of people with autism with CBD and with THC, but let the buyer beware. We need to be humble as both the physician side and the parent or patient side about what we're seeing, because when you go in believing, you almost always confirm what you came in believing, regardless of what the truth is. Thank you so much again, and I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Davinsky. I know that this can be a controversial topic. It shouldn't be, but it can. We have gotten a couple questions. One is about tolerance. So do you see any changes in efficacy of CBD with continued use?
I think there is some tolerance. I think in my experience, almost every drug has some tolerance. The nervous system and the brain are exquisitely made to become tolerant. Anything we're exposed to over and over, we get used to it. It has less of an initial start. When we start a meal, it tastes better when we're hungry than at the end of the meal. And that's why phrases like good to the last drop comes in, although I'm not sure it's true about that product. But essentially, we adapt to everything. And I think in part there is some tolerance to CBD. It's not a lot, not nearly as much as the benzodiazepine, but there's some.
That's a good point. We got another question about the potential sedative effects of CBD. I know you did show one graph that compared sedation versus anti-anxiety effects, but do you think some of the effects on seizures or even some of the symptoms of autism could be because of sedation, or what is your response?
It's an intriguing question. Without a doubt, somnolence, tiredness is a side effect of CBD. Keep in mind, in the trials I was discussing that I was involved with, we used quite high doses. So we used, for the average 60 kilogram, 130 pound adult, it would have been 600 to 1200 milligrams per day. Keep in mind, if you buy a recessed soda, which is sold in New York City and has CBD, it has 10 milligrams of CBD, which is a placebo dose in my view, because you probably absorb, if you're lucky, about half a milligram, and would be like taking 1/100th of an Advil and hoping your headache goes away. So I think, that's one thing. It depends on the dose, very much what side effects you'll see. I don't think the anti-seizure properties are just due to sedation, because there are many compounds like diphenhydramine, better known as Benadryl, or present in a lot of the sleep medications, that is quite sedating, but it also makes seizures more likely to occur. So just pure sedation tends not to control seizures. Certainly a lot of the drugs that treat seizures are central nervous system depressants like Valium or Klonopin or phenobarbital, but there are drugs that are sedating that make seizures worse.
And I'm glad and thankful that you mentioned the wild, wild west of not just dispensaries, but you can buy CBD anywhere now. You can buy CBD at our local, around the corner liquor store. You can buy it at Wegmans grocery store. Do you have anything that you want to particularly say about not necessarily the dangers, but the expectations of taking stuff that you're getting at a gas station?
Yeah, I think, I wish I knew Latin better, but, there's the Latin phrase, let the buyer beware. And so, when CBD first started to become popularly marketed on the internet and people were buying it for themselves or their pets, the FDA looked at, I think it was 14 products, and 12 of them, had less than 1/5 the amount of advertised CBD. So probably the biggest problem when you buy CBD at a gas station or at a bodega or wherever is that you're probably getting very little CBD. And if you're getting, that little, it's really probably doing nothing. And I just wouldn't waste my money on it.
Hey riders, crew and friends, how we all doing? I am about to do a 20-minute workout with you guys here. You will not need any weight, only your body weight. You only need your body weight for this. We're gonna go through a quick warm up. We have 2 intervals and a quick finisher, so about 20 minutes give or take here. But let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna do 30 seconds for each of these movements, starting out with jumping jacks right here, nice and easy. We're going right into the workout. 30 seconds, just to Get the body warm here. So we don't have to do anything crazy. There we go. Give me another 15 seconds, halfway through. Again, if you need to scale this back, we can step outside, side. This is your workout. I want you to push it at your own level. Here we go. Keep going. 5 seconds. We're gonna go into knee cradles next. 3, 2, right here. All you're gonna do is pull one knee into the chest, hold for a second, switch out to the other side. So we're getting a little bit of balance here. We're stretching out those legs here, back down. Good. We will be doing some leg movements, some upper body movements. We're gonna make sure those legs are nice and stretched out. Here we go. Another 10 seconds here. Good, 5 seconds to go. 3, 2, right into some inchworms. Turning to the side just to demonstrate here, you're gonna walk your hands out into a plank position, hold it here, and then walk those hands back in. Good, repeat those 30 seconds, as fast or as slow as you need to go on these. If you wanna make it a little bit tougher, add a push-up here at the bottom, back out of it. Whew, 10 seconds to go. Try to get one more in here if you can. Good, another 5 seconds. And we're gonna start back with those jumping jacks. 3, 2, back into jumping jacks. Another 30 seconds here. Right, the goal is to warm up the body, right? Like we were talking about, with those muscles nice and loose, ready to go. Good, if you need to modify this, feel free to do so. We can always go into the standard marches like we were doing before. Butt kickers, keep the jumping jacks. Whatever you want, whatever you need, your workout, right? Whew. All right, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, knee cradles. Grab that knee, pull it in, hug it, switch it out. Here, back out. Good, good, good. Here we go. Halfway, 15 seconds to go. That's it. Good, 10 more seconds. Nice and easy. Here we go. 3, 2, back into those inchworms. Straight legs, walk him out. Push up if you can. Walk it back in. We got it. Another 10 seconds down, 20 seconds to go. Whew. Here we go. We are working and stretching the back of the legs here. Those shoulders are working, stretching those out to get us walking out. And if you're adding that push-up, you're getting that chest in there too. Another 5 seconds here. 4, 3, 2, take a little break, catch your breath. All right, we have 3 movements, 40 seconds per movement, 2 times through. A little break in between, right, to get that 20 seconds. We're doing squats, T push-ups, and sit-ups. So for squats, standard squats, sit down into it, back up. Next one, the T push-up. You're gonna do a standard push-up. We have modifications for this if you need to. So from here, you're lowering yourself to the floor, come up, rotate to the side, making a T with that body into a side plank, back down. You can add an additional push-up or go right to the other side to that other T plank. And your last one, sit up, good old-fashioned sit up here to here, right? We'll go over some modifications as we're going through it, but starting with squats, right? Nice and easy, going as low as you can here. The squats are on your programming, lunges are gonna be great too. Here we go, 3, 2, let's go, just standard squats. Here, back up. All right, and if you're feeling a little fancy today, we can always make these squat jumps coming up and back down, right? If that is not in your programming, keep it right here, nice and easy with those squats. You're already 15 seconds into it. Whew. Good, focusing on making sure we push that butt back, sitting into it, my knees aren't passing the toes, and then we come back out. Here to here. There we go. Last 10 seconds, keep squatting for me, keep going. Good. Whew. Have you broken a sweat yet? Because I am already sweating. 3, 2, take your 20-second rest. So if push-ups are a little hard for you, we can always do those from the knee. Same movement, we're here, pushing down, coming back up. Coming into that full plank for that side plank to the T if you want, or staying right where you're at with the other part. All right, here we go. 5 seconds, we're gonna start, and we're in for 40. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Push up, rotate to the side, come back out of it. Push up, and rotate, here to here, good. Ooh. As many as you can do, as long as you don't lose form, right? You want a straight line with the body, chest coming all the way down on the floor if you can, almost touching. Good, good, good. Here we go, 20 seconds left. Keep moving through it. Keep pushing. And rotate. You got it. 10 more seconds. Whew. 5 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2, and rest. All right, abs here for the sit-up. Modify if we need to, right? Standard sit-up, coming up and back down. Crunches are another option, or we can always plank, right? Whatever's in your programming, whatever works for you. Another 10 seconds to catch your breath. You're going through it. All right, on the ground, getting ready. 3, 2, and go. Sit up, back down. Good. Elbows are coming all the way to the knees if you're doing full sit-up, lowering all the way back down. Flatten out that back, come back up. Try not to use momentum and try not to swing those arms, right? Place those hands beside the head, up and back down. If you need to, that crunch, we're just crunching up, back down. Working those abdominals here, back down. Good. 20 seconds. Keep going. There we go. There we go. Whew. 10 seconds. All right, 5 to go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Take a little break. 1 round done, right? We're gonna do that one more time. Same thing, going back into those squats. Whew. Grab a sip of water, wipe yourself down. Get ready, 10 seconds. You still have 10 seconds to go. All right, guys. Goal is to elevate that heart rate each time we go into it, right? Spike that heart rate a little bit, let it drop. We're changing the muscle group each time. Here we go, 3, 2, and go. Targeting the glutes and the legs here, right? Squat, we'll work everything in that lower body here. Down and back up. Good. Your breathing can be heavy. That is fine. You can hear me trying to breathe a little bit here. Breathe, talk, and move. There we go. Almost there. 20 seconds down, 20 seconds to go. Long spine, chest out, shoulders are pulled back, standing proud. Good. Don't let that spine round, right? We don't want to collapse forward. We're not bowing. We're hinging from the hips down and back up. 3, 2, good. 20-second break. All right, friends. We're going back into those push-ups now, right? Modified push-ups if you need to, standard full push-ups, whatever you got. Slow them down, but I want you keep moving if you need to, right? The goal is to keep moving to the full 40 seconds. 3, 2, and let's go. All the way down and rotate. There we go, good. Here to here. That's it. 10 seconds down, 30 seconds to go. If push-ups are not in your workout right now, if you've done too many, try to see if you can just do these rotating side planks, side to side. If you're still feeling good, knock out those push-ups right here. You feeling fancy? Go ahead. Coming down, come up, clap, back into it, right? It is your workout, try it. Whew. Here we go, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, rest. All right, friends, abs, sit up. You got this. Modified movements if you need to, right? If those sit-ups weren't feeling good that last round, we can try this thing, the leg lift, crunches, planks. Here we go. Get ready, because we're going to do it last time. 5, 4, 3, 2, and let's go. 40 seconds on the clock. There we go. Focus on your breathing, right? Deep breath in, get oxygen into that body. We don't want to hold our breath. Make sure you're breathing. Whew. Good. Good, good, good. Come on. We're almost there. You get a nice little break between these 2 circuits. Earn that break, right? That's the goal. Where are we at? Where are we at? We have still 15 seconds or so to go. Keep moving. Keep a distance between that chin and the chest. Don't tighten up. What goal is to keep the neck in line with the rest of the spine here. Here we go. We're going to give you another 5 seconds right here for 5. Keep going. 4, 3, 2, and rest. All right, full minute to recover. Catch your breath. We have 3 new movements now. Same thing though, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds rest, 2 times through. So we have lunges, we have dips, and we have a plank. Lunges, standard lunge here, right? You're gonna lunge out here and back up. The goal, 2 90-degree angles, body center between both legs as you come here and back up. Modifications to come if you need them. All right, we have dips. So this movement can be done with a dumbbell, can scoop water if you have it at home and we don't want to do the dip. You go up overhead, see in the mirror there, here and back on, here to here. If we don't have weights, that's totally fine. Because it was programmed to be dipped anyway, so that's body weight. We're here. What do you want you to do? Dip down, back up. Here and up. We're targeting the back of that arm, right? Last but not least, we're going into plank. High or low plank, I don't care. I just want to make sure we have a straight line with the body and we're feeling strong and good in them. Whew. All right, 20 seconds. Take the next 20 seconds, prepare. Starting with those squats, right? Or lunges, sorry, lunges again. So if you have any knee issues, try a reverse lunge. You're gonna step back. Instead of stepping forward, here to here. It's gonna take a little pressure off the knee, but it is gonna target the glute a little more. It's a little more booty work. All right, here we go, 5 seconds. Lunges, 3, 2, 1. Let's go, lunge it out. Body's in between both legs. 2 90-degree angles. Again, that knee is not passing that toe. Whew. We're nice and strong, nice and tall, chest out, shoulders back. Good. Keep moving through it. Hitting those legs. There we go. 20 seconds. Whatever your arms need to do, let it do it. I'm always switching up what I do with my arms. There we go, there we go. Keep moving, keep moving. 10 seconds. You have just 10 more seconds of lunges. Again, remember if you need to, reverse and up. 5, 4, 3, 2, and rest. All right, so I gave you your dip options. Body weight, or if you have water bottle, can of soup, whatever you got, and you want to hit going overhead, here to here, that's fine. 10 seconds. We're in it. 4, 3, 2, dip it out, right? Hit those triceps, little arm work here to here. The triceps should already be warm because we were just doing those push-ups. Triceps are secondary movement when we're in push-ups, right? And you're gonna feel those triceps start to burn real quick. Goal again, remember, don't stop moving. We're here, right, with that dumbbell, if you have it overhead. Elbows are pointing forward, here to here. The nice thing about going overhead here is we're targeting that third muscle head. So try for tricep, meaning 3, because we have 3 muscles on our tricep. Here to here, good. Keep it going, we have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, and rest. All right, last but not least, the plank, and then we start this over one more time. 15 seconds to go into it. Again, this is ab focus, right? So we're holding it, isometric hold in that plank, but if you want to, you can always change it up. You wanna go back to sit-ups? That is your prerogative, right? 3, 2, let's plank it out. Right here. If we're in that plank and we wanna challenge ourselves a little bit, try a camel plank. Is going from a high plank down to the low plank or to the elbows and coming back up into that high plank, right? Alternating side. Let's start here to here. If that's not working for you, hold the plank. Just hold the plank. You don't have to move. It is going to force those muscles to engage a little differently. Whatever's working for you, right? We're doing the workout together, but it is your workout. Here we go. 10 seconds to keep holding. Straight line. Don't let the pelvic region dip. Don't push that booty up in the air. You want a straight line here. 4, 3, 2, and we rest. All right, 20 seconds. We start that over. Back into the lunges again. So we're gonna hit those legs again. All right, 10 seconds. Deep breath. Focus in. You're almost there, right? Last round, and then we have a finisher. There is a finisher. I told you. People always say I don't tell them. 3, 2, and let's go. Lunge it out here and back up. Here. Good, 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 good. Keep moving, keep moving. Come on. We got these. Lunge it out. Ha. Here we go. Lunges are one of those things I love to hate. So good for you. But they kill those legs, right? Here we go. You have another 15 seconds, sorry. Keep moving. Don't want to take any time from you guys. You deserve the full 40 seconds here. Another 5 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2. All right, we got it, we got it. Catch your breath, triceps, right? Hitting these guys right here. Overhead, dip. If you have a bench or something, or a table, coffee table, you want to do this off of, feel free. The dips are with the body weight are definitely going to be a little harder. I don't know about you, my body weight is a little more than a 5-pound dumbbell I was just carrying, right? So I'm going to feel it more when I'm down here on the floor. And it's not a big movement. Don't feel like you have to move a whole lot here. Almost a pulsing movement is what it's going to feel like, but I want you to try to hit that full range still. Keep going. There we go. Another 20 seconds here. Good. Almost there. Keep moving. Good, good, good. We have another 15 seconds. Keep pushing those triceps. You got it. Good work. Good, good, good. Last 10. Almost there. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and rest. All right, we're in our planks next. Planks are going to be the last one for this circuit, and we move on to our finisher, right? Another 5 seconds here, going right into that plank. 4, 3, 2, down in that plank. Holding right here. You got it. Good. Stabilizing with the core. Abs are holding and move, or holding right here. Even though we're not moving, they're still working. It's an isometric hold. So the muscles are working against each other to keep you right there in that place. Good. 20 seconds to go. Again, to modify, change it up, make it a little harder. Or if you just want to add a little movement, shoulder tap. Engage, keeping those hips not locked out, but don't swivel side to side here. Abs are going to hold them from going into that salsa kind of movement here. 5 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2, and rest. Good. All right. We made it here. We are at our finisher. This one's going to be a little harder. 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. We're going to try burpees. If you can, if not, any movement that's going to elevate the heart rate, right? Jumping jacks, mountain climbers, high knees, whatever it is. But the burpee movement is what I want to see. We're going 20 seconds on, 10 seconds to rest, right? Your burpee, you're going to jump up, you're going to jump down, give you a full push-up, and back into it. As many as you can do in 20 seconds. We'll do this 4 times, and you're done. You're out of here. All right, let me get my timer going here. 5 seconds, and we start. 4, 3, 2, and let's go. Good. Burpees, or we have those jumping jacks, high knees, whatever it is. Goal is get the heart rate up as fast as you can go here. Good. Another 12 seconds. That's it. That's it. 10 seconds. Come on. You're almost there. 3, 2, 1. Rest it out. You have 10 seconds to catch your breath. First one's not so bad. Second, third, and fourth are going to be where we start to feel it. Once you hit the same number you just did, right? Challenge yourself. 3, 2, and let's go. Burpees. Jump up, jump down. Give me that push up. As we get tired, you're going to want to cheat and slow it down. This part, I don't want you to slow down. I want you to try to keep going as fast as you can. It is our finisher. It is our last push into the finish line here. 3, 2, and rest. Good. 2 more. 2 down, 2 to go. Almost there, guys. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, and go. If you need to modify, right, we can go back to those jumping jacks. We can go to high knees, but keep moving. 20 seconds. All you got to give me here. Good, 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 good. You're almost there for 5. For 4, 3, 2, and rest. Whew. Last one. If we've been doing burpees, I challenge you not to change it now. If you've been doing mountain climbing, stick with whatever's pushing you right here. 3, 2, and go. If you haven't tried burpees yet, maybe try it on this last one. Right here, come on, just 20 seconds. Good, keep pushing, 10 seconds down. 10 seconds to go. For 5, almost here. For 4, keep them coming. For 3, for 2, and done. Awesome work. Whew. All right, guys. I am B. Make sure you take some time, stretch it out. You are done. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.
The title is Rethinking Autism Assessment, and the photo is a takeoff of a movie poster from Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Of course, many of us are feeling like we're living in another Gabriel Garcia Cortez novel, 100 Years of Solitude. So I'm just delighted to have the social contact and a chance to spend the day with all of you today. And again, to participate in this wonderful event. So Alicia, being the ever thoughtful and forward-thinking person that she is, brought together an interdisciplinary group of clinicians and researchers and a parent leader to talk about the assessment challenges during COVID, which Dr. Feliciano touched on quite thoughtfully from the Spark research group as well. So our discussion group met over the course of a year, and I am really honored and delighted to present some of these thoughts on behalf of the group. So I love this photo. So this is my friend and colleague, Jessica Bryan, who I haven't seen in person for a couple years because of the pandemic. It really reminds me of what drew most of us to our professional work, the joy of seeing children and youth and how gratifying it is to support them and their families. So our discussion group started with the challenge of how the pandemic has disrupted our usual clinical practice and the technical adaptations that we implemented, including virtual care. So a number of the things that were touched on in the Spark research. But we quickly realized that we were really looking through quite a narrow lens, and it was mainly our own lens. And we started talking more and more about what families were experiencing and the barriers and stresses that they were facing. And although unquestionably there were stresses that were specific to the pandemic, like disrupted services, the children being out of school, the social isolation that families were experiencing, we also realized that COVID was bringing to the surface some serious issues that had really been there all along. And in some respects, the chasm between system capacity and needs was widening under the pressure of COVID, in part because there were already kind of cracks or faults in that system. Like in the foundation of our care, there were some faults just waiting to expand sort of under the pressure of the circumstances of the pandemic. So in some respects, our discussion expanded on issues that families and professionals have been grappling with for a number of years. And these were highlighted in two companion commentaries that were published in early 2020, just as the pandemic was starting. The first was by Steve Canay and Summer Bishop, which emphasized the importance of high quality assessments by specialized teams. And the second, a follow-up by Zach Warren and I, really agreeing with Steve and Summer's important points, but also noting that autism rates were rising a lot faster than our ability to train the highly specialized professionals that populated these teams, which contributed to long wait times. And the reality was that there was variable access to such teams, especially outside of large urban centers, which contribute to disparities in care. I mean, the bottom line is we need to find a way to maintain the quality and integrity of the autism diagnostic system while at the same time improving overall capacity and accessibility. In this original commentary, we also cited evidence which included major contributions from Zach and his colleagues at Vanderbilt, as well as others that were ultimately involved in our Autism Science Foundation discussion group, including Amy Weatherby, Wendy Stone, Kristen Soule, about the feasibility of training and mentoring community professionals. I really want to emphasize as well that Summer Bishop was a part of the leadership of our Autism Science Foundation discussion group, and Steve Canay has made major contributions to the effort to adapt autism assessments during the pandemic. So this is very much a collaborative effort to make autism diagnosis family-centered and more accessible, and to give some serious thought to the ways that we can improve our system of care. So clearly, we need a system that values high levels of clinical expertise, a holistic approach that involves the contribution of multiple disciplines, and the capacity to meet our commitment to provide timely access to diagnostic assessment, which, as we know, is generally a gateway to supports and services. It's also important to recognize that there are risks to a one-size-fits-all system, that setting strict requirements for how many disciplines or who needs to be involved and the particular measures that need to be used, especially if those requirements don't take account of the characteristics of the child or the complexity of their clinical presentation, that a rigid one-size-fits-all approach really creates bottlenecks in the system, and during extraordinary circumstances like the pandemic can make it extremely difficult to adapt and pivot to new approaches. And it's important to acknowledge that when we're thinking about assessment quality, we need to take account of a lot of essential elements, including accuracy, standardization, and comprehensiveness, but also access, adaptability, and the degree to which our care is family-centered. So responding to the questions that parents have, their need for accurate information, as well as, of course, the provision of hope. So consistent with the principles of the latest practice statements from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Canadian Pediatric Society, some communities are establishing multiple interconnected clinical pathways to autism assessment and diagnosis, with some children whose behavioral symptoms are more evident being seen in the community. So for example, there are a number of training models that have empowered community pediatricians to conduct diagnostic assessments in their own office. So history taking, their own versions of interactive assessments with ongoing mentorship that includes case review with an autism specialist. And in a sense, the pediatricians participating as part of a virtual team. So for instance, they might be interacting with community professionals, reviewing and integrating assessments by their colleagues, including speech and language pathologists. And this certainly can include a degree of standardization, for instance, in the administration of an office-based interactive assessment. There's also the option of shifting to a more comprehensive assessment by a specialty team when there ends up being more ambiguity or complexity than anticipated. And what we're ultimately trying to accomplish is adding to a skilled workforce of professionals that can make a quality autism diagnosis and building greater capacity and flexibility into the system. Another important theme that came up in our Autism Science Foundation discussion group were disparities in care experienced by African Americans, Hispanic families, and other non-Caucasian groups, as well as families disadvantaged by socioeconomic stressors. A major concern was that disruptions in the care system during COVID would kind of exacerbate systemic barriers that were already there, as well as disparities to access and assessment, and potentially widening the age of diagnosis. And the whole question of further delays in diagnosis that came up in the earlier talk. I don't know that we have data yet, but certainly anecdotally, it took us a while to kind of pivot to a new system of care. And as Dr. Feliciano alluded to, there are some children that may be very difficult to provide a confident assessment sort of using these new virtual methods. There are certainly some potential strengths of virtual assessment, using platforms like we're using today. It might make the diagnosis more accessible to families who prior to the pandemic would have had difficulty traveling a long distance to a specialized center. It also provides a unique opportunity to see the child in their own home environment and with their family and other relatives and, in a sense, a much more real life assessment of what they're like. On the other hand, this novel approach also has the potential of creating new barriers and disparities. For parents who didn't feel comfortable letting unfamiliar people into their home, nor acting as the assessor in some of these new parent-mediated approaches. And of course, having reliable high-speed internet, which in Canada, and I suspect in the US as well, is like a huge challenge in many rural and remote areas, and also in many urban areas. And certainly a major issue for the Canadian Indigenous communities. And of course, this creates a new challenge of digital health inequities. So the gains that we make in terms of accessibility potentially outweighed by creating further disparities. So families and professionals were all facing the challenge of adapting to the unique stresses and disruptions related to COVID, and really superimposed on an already strained service system that was not keeping up and was also fragmented with limited collaboration across sectors. I personally would also argue that there's been untapped capacity among community professionals to contribute to the diagnostic process. I believe that we can create a more integrated system that allows assessments to be better tailored to the needs of the child and family, and ultimately promotes holistic care closer to home, including continuity of healthcare. It's not easy to make all these changes in a short period of time and to confirm that we're on the right path. And, the reality is we've needed to adapt and pivot really rapidly with these dramatic and sudden changes in the care landscape. And we've needed to evaluate in real time the effectiveness of new practices. And as Greg alluded to, I'm a clinician, but also a researcher. So I'm hesitant to sort of put aside all the things that I've learned about research methodology. But I have to say that we have to consider new approaches, not only to our clinical care, but also to evaluation. And I feel like I've had a crash course over the past year or so in quality improvement approaches. So that is iterative assessment of small tests of change, which continuously shape a particular care process. And the truth is this quality improvement framework offers some advantage over conventional research designs. For example, learning health systems integrate quality improvement science with clinical practice as a collaborative method for addressing complex clinical challenges, including diagnostic practices. And it's very much a partnership model that's ready-made to involve people with lived experience, including autistic adults and parents. So promising practices in this regard include the Extension for Community Health Outcomes, or ECHO autism model, which many of you may be familiar with, which blends case-based telemonitoring and guided practice to build community capacity for autism diagnosis. So it's built on the QI framework of collaboration and small tests of change. Kind of starts with a community conversation, some initial training, mentoring, and then ultimately shaping skill level, case review, and building towards quality assessment in multiple streams. And this framework, in particular ECHO Autism, has been led by Kristen Saul with collaborators Alicia Curran as well as Micah Mazurek, and has really been an exemplary model of community partnership, allowing for rapid evaluation of novel practices and rapid scaling and capacity building. And there are many other QI programs currently underway to evaluate sort of new novel models of virtual care. So what does the future hold? So with respect to diagnostic assessment, we have our work cut out for us. We need to find the right balance between comprehensiveness, adaptability, and accessibility. We need to foster partnerships between specialty and community professionals to create a continuum of assessment options tailored to the complexity of the child's clinical presentation and family's priorities, and together build community capacity. We also may need to be more open to novel assessment practices, which were a stopgap for the pandemic, but we may need to integrate these into our longer-term system of care. Telehealth, as well as continuing to support community models, including pediatrician training, that ultimately could increase accessibility and build greater adaptability into the system in response to a changing environment and also potential disruptions in the future. And we must actively partner with families and autistic people to advocate for system change and to ensure that the way we evaluate clinical practices are co-developed and through a lived experience lens. And if that wasn't enough, we need to dig deep and informed by the lessons taken from working with younger children and build a system that provides timely, equitable, and patient-centered diagnostic assessment for autistic adults who also need our attention. Really another major gap that we need to address as a clinical community. So again, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to participate in this day of learning. I want to acknowledge my colleagues in the Autism Science Foundation discussion group, including Summer, Wendy, Lisa Banez, and Alicia, who did the heavy lifting in terms of formulating these ideas that I shared today. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues Jessica Bryan and Angie Ip, who were instrumental in developing the Canadian Pediatric Society practice guidelines, which have also kind of shaped my thinking around these issues. My colleagues in infant sibling research, including in our own group and through the Baby SIBS Consortium, my colleagues at the Glenrose, who've been really instrumental in building capacity in our own community, the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation, who support my chair, and other research funders, and of course, many wonderful children, youth, autistic adults, and their families who've really shaped our ideas and our practice and remain essential partners in this process. So again, thank you for the opportunity and looking forward to your questions. Whoops, sorry, I will unshare. How long does it take a pediatrician to learn how to use Zoom? Here we go.
Well, I was just going to say there may be many downsides of living in Alberta, Canada in the middle of the winter, but one of the upsides is that Lonnie might be your child's pediatrician, or Lonnie is part of the team that helps make decisions about how children in Canada are assessed and helped. So it was a real pleasure and a total honor to have you as part of this day of learning. And I'm so thrilled we got to touch on some of the issues that have plagued clinicians, not just families, in them trying to help families during the pandemic. So what do you think about a hybrid model? So we talked about the benefits of in-person. We talked about the benefits of working remotely or assessing remotely. What's the future of a hybrid model for assessments?
I think you're right on, Alicia. I think it's a hybrid model that I think will take us forward. In a sense, it's not only about novelty, but it's about expanding our toolbox so that we've got greater flexibility to offer assessment approaches that make sense for the child, the family, and ultimately for the adult. And it just gives us a bit more flexibility when we're kind of cut off from some of our usual clinical practices. We've got other approaches that we're familiar and experienced with, and that have been socialized in the broader community that we can turn to. And I think sort of having that a greater number of options. And I think recognizing the diversity in the autism community and the diversity of needs and frankly, the kind of assessment that I'm going to do at the Glenrose as a developmental pediatrician can and should look different than what a community colleague is doing in their offices. And, you know, I'm cognizant that I went overtime. I'm a developmental pediatrician. I can't stick to the clock. My community pediatricians, they work like clockwork. And I may question sometimes that maybe they should have spent some more time. And part of that ongoing training and mentorship is about that. But it's amazing sort of how much that they can improve capacity and see kids in the time that they need. And if we can all work together and ensure that we find the ability to maintain quality and comprehensiveness of information, but also make sure we're seeing lots more people that need to be seen, I think there's a way to move forward. And I have to say, in my other clinical roles, I've seen virtual care really revolutionize pediatrics. I live, in kind of towards northern Alberta. So there's a lot of people that used to fly in or travel hundreds of miles in order to access our children's hospital. And the ability to offer virtual care and save people hours on the road and disrupting their family and children's routines, I think will kind of open new access. It's not for everyone or for every situation, but I think I hope that it will go on sort of beyond the pandemic.
We have time for one more question, and there's a couple that have come in that fill in the same theme, which is people who are either community healthcare workers or social workers or people that aren't normally trained because they're trained in other things to evaluate or assess children for autism. In other countries other than North America, this is a real issue and they actually don't have a lot of expert diagnosticians. So how do you see those individuals being trained up or being prepared to not provide formal evaluations in the traditional sense, but to help provide some sort of assessment so that they are, in some way qualified to give families answers in areas of the world or even situations where access to a specialist is not available?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and it is important to think globally and make sure that these models sort of apply sort of across situations. I think there has to be a fit in terms of expertise and what we're asking people to do, and just sort of recognize the limits to scope of practice. At the same time, there's lots that we can do. I mean, we've learned so much because of this community in terms of how to assess early signs, how to ask parents questions about their children's development, and I think increasingly how to support adults talking about their lived experience as well. And I think that it takes a village, and that specialists probably need to divide their time more around sort of providing training and mentorship, because I think it really leverages sort of what we can provide for individual families, for larger communities of professionals, and ultimately for children and families. And I think we just have to be thoughtful about what each of those professionals is doing. I mean, you're right that there's a scope of practice issue around actually providing a diagnosis, and yet families have a lot of information needs about what they should be looking for, what information they can access, what they can be starting with in terms of creating a learning environment for their kids sort of as they're navigating that diagnostic process. And it's a lot of excellent information out there. And I think we just need to work collaboratively to really make sure that we're all kind of achieving our scope of practice. And I think that scope does include training and mentorship and working collaboratively with that larger community.
sinners saved. That's heads is tails, they call me Lucifer. And I weigh your soul down a ways. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, and some taste. Use all well-learned politics, or I'll lay your soul down away. And I'll say the same. Pleased to meet you. That's hedges. They call me Lucifer. And I wear your soul down away. That's the meet me. That's all. Use all politics. I'll lay your soul down in the closing ceremony of the I want to bring everyone to the front here. We're all going to be in a big Polaroid. You all want to take a big Polaroid. We're going to come to the front. We're going to do the closing ceremony. Everything's going to be fantastic. So all the folks over there in the parking lot, I don't know what you're doing over there, but please come this way. Everyone this way, even if you're in the back by the food, please come to the front. I want to bring everyone to the front here. We're all going to be in a big Polaroid. You want to go by the Well, you know, we got it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Please put your hands together and move towards the center of the stage. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Brian and Melissa Harkins, co-founders of Wall Street Lights Farm.
Thanks, Joe. And also, thank you again to the Lava Trading Band. These guys have been with us every year, 7 straight years, and they just give their time and energy to make this such an enjoyable event. So clap it up for the Lava Trading Band. So I wanted to share some statistics this year because, as you can see, this is by far our biggest event, and we still have a lot of people making their way on the course. So we wanted to get the closing ceremony started. This year in New York, despite still some of the uncertain times, we had over 300 riders, and we have close to 450 participants around the globe participating with us virtually in different cities. So just an unbelievable turnout this year. And this doesn't happen with the generosity of our sponsors. Quite simply, the corporate sponsors this year have been completely humbled all of us, and it really what makes this event so enjoyable. So I want to thank our diamond sponsors, SIBO Global Markets, T. Rowe Price, and FTX. Platinum sponsors GTS, XTX, Paxos, and Forefront Communications. Gold sponsors Tower Research, Morgan Stanley, and TrueMid. And it's too numerous to name, but we have 19 silver sponsors, 26 bronze sponsors, a total of 50 corporate sponsors, which is unbelievable. And what makes this ride grow and makes this community continue to grow is social media. So take the time later to tag yourself, put it on Facebook, on Instagram, tweet, hashtag #WhyIRideFar. We will make sure you really get out the word and put the pictures. It's awesome to see all of the corporate teams with their jerseys on, and really this is what it's all about, is the spirit and the spirit of charity for the event. So now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa to say a few words and to do one of our special awards.
Hi, guys. I'm really excited to share with you the Wall Street Rides Far yellow jersey. The yellow jersey is something we started a few years ago, and we award it every year to the person who has gone above and beyond with their support. And the wearer of the yellow jersey best embodies the charitable spirit of the event. This year's award, I don't see him, but Dave Laval, if you're here. Dave joined us on our board very early on in the ride. He always shows a lot of enthusiasm and interest, and he's been very creative in expanding our market and ideas. He's the kind of person that will text us, or write an email in the middle of February and say, guys, we got to do this. And, he's taken that idea, and he's basically, our success is due to people like him, that we just surround ourselves with people who selflessly give their time and energy. And so we really appreciate all his work, the work he's done on this ride. Now we have some additional awards that we'd like to pass out. The first one being our top youth fundraiser at $4,348 is Anna Colzon. Our top individual fundraiser is Andrew Glancy at $31,487. Is he here?
Is Nice C team, is Andrew here? Okay.
Andrew Glancy. There he is. Okay. Okay, our highest number of donations was Patty Kotzner. She's virtual this year, but she was also last year's yellow jersey recipient. So congratulations to Patty. 43 donations. Our top first-year fundraiser, Mark Wyatt, at $17,266. And he's in Baltimore. Our top crew fundraiser, Steve Bonato. Steve, come on up. By the keg over there.
Steve is at the keg, where he should be. Anyway, we have your award, buddy.
The top family team, Polly's Promise, at almost $20,000. Our biggest team is Paxos at 34 people. Come on up.
Team captain.
Team captain from Paxos, please come on up. I don't see them. Okay. Now, our top corporate team this year is the New York Stock Exchange, who raised $56,395. Inspirational leadership by a captain goes to Carrie Leonard, Team SIBO. Thanks. Our top fundraising virtual team, T. Rowe Price, at almost $25,000. And for one final award, let's head back down to Baltimore and Allison Singer at T. Rowe Price headquarters.
Hi, everyone in Saxon Woods Park. We're still here in Baltimore where our ride and our walk have officially ended. Families are enjoying lunch. They're still enjoying the game zone. We had the Owings Mills Fire Department here. They brought a fire truck and took the kids on a ride around the campus with the sirens blaring. I wanted to get on the truck, but they said it was just for kids. Anyway, as you've heard, Team T. Rowe Price, our new diamond sponsor, has won several awards. And I want to bring on the team captain from T. Rowe Price, who's the winner of our top individual fundraiser, top virtual and satellite fundraiser, and top team fundraiser. This is Mark Wyatt. Do you want to say?
T. Rowe Price is delighted to be part of the great event. I'm so happy that the firm was able to host this at our campus here in Owings Mills. And I can't thank Allison enough for being here. So we're so happy to support Wall Street Rides Far and the Autism Science Foundation. Thank you.
And as you've heard, we had 3 new satellite rides this year. And our final award for top rookie satellite ride, no surprise, goes to T. Rowe Price and the Baltimore Ride. So I want to bring on Mark again and Jeanette Johnson, who's been instrumental in helping us to organize the ride, and present you with the plaque that we knew you were getting. The other ones we'll send you in the mail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is a great honor. Thank you so much.
Very well done. All to the jet. So great job.
Thank you.
And so with that, we will say goodbye from Baltimore. I can't wait to see everyone soon. Keep posting your pictures and have a great afternoon. Satellite rides this year, and our final award for top rookie satellite ride, no surprise, goes to T. Rowe Price and the Baltimore Ride. So I want to bring on Mark again and Jeanette Johnson, who's been instrumental in helping us to organize the ride, and present you with the plaque that we knew you were getting. The other ones we'll send you in the mail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is a great honor. Thank you so much.
Very well done. All to the jet. So great job.
Thank you.
And so with that, we will say goodbye from Baltimore. I can't wait to see everyone soon. Keep posting your pictures and have a great afternoon.
All right, now we are getting to the best part. I'd like to ask Alicia Halliday, the Chief Science Officer of the Autism Science Foundation, to join us on stage. All right. You remember the movie Happy Gilmore when he gets that big check after winning all the tournaments? Well, this is a little closer. All right. All right. So now here we go. This is the best part. Now, look, this is a result of all the hard work and care that all of you are putting into this amazing event. So with that said, this is by far the biggest year. We are happy to present the Autism Science Foundation with a check for $770,000.
This is so amazing. The answers for families with autism comes through science, and the Autism Science Foundation is so committed to helping those across the spectrum and across the lifespan. This money makes such a difference in the lives of families, and it's all because of your hard work, not just today, but for the past months and probably even year preparing for this event. So on behalf of Autism Science Foundation, thank you so much. We are so appreciative.
Just so you know, as far as where we were last year, last year was obviously an unconventional year, but Eric, we were at about 400 last year. And I think our record was 2 years ago was 440-ish. So this is absolutely unbelievable. And you're going to hear it right here next year, $1 million. All right? Okay. So let's also do one other thing. Part of the inspiration for this ride is for the families that are dealing with autism each and every day. And, we all just want to do our part. And I wanted to introduce a special guest, our sister-in-law, Jackie, who has an amazing son, our nephew, Kyle. And she wants to make it a little bit more of a connection as to why we come here today.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say, first of all, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law are nothing short of amazing. Just looking out here today, as a mom of autism, I'm so humbled and grateful and emotional. I hope I don't cry on you today, but I think you'll understand if I do. Brian asked me yesterday to speak for a few moments about autism to give a connection. My first thought is, how do I put into a few moments the difficulties of living with autism? It's not possible. The sleep deprivation, the isolation, the effect it has on siblings. In fact, my son trained 13 miles the other day to come ride here today, but because his brother, Kyle, kept us up all night, I didn't have the heart to wake him. My other son, Chris, plays Division I baseball, and unfortunately, my husband and I have missed many a home run because we're just simply not able to get there because of lack of support and manpower for Kyle, who's a 24/7 job. And when I say 24/7, I mean that, because even when we sleep, we're just always anticipating waking up. It's rough on a family, on a marriage, just on everyday living. Some days it's literally about survival and just getting through the day. And unfortunately, you're not even promised a good night's sleep after that. I want to leave you with one story that I feel like is really symbolic of autism, of being a mom with autism. I think it's representative of what we deal with every day and what I see just all of you appreciating and contributing to today. I took a flight with my son Kyle a few years ago when he was much more manageable than he is now. I was alone. It was Kyle, myself, and my middle son. And I was prepared. I had snacks, I had toys, I had his car seat that he uses every day so that we could, simulate his normalcy. And we got on the plane and it was anything but. The car seat wouldn't fit. The staff was helping me. The plane was delayed because we were trying to work this out. And Kyle went into a full-blown, meltdown. And he scratched myself, my son. We were bleeding. And everybody just stared at us open-mouthed in horror. And with that, they weren't going to fly the plane because of us. And at that moment, I realized I have no control over this situation. I have no idea what to do. Nobody does. And I realized that just something so simple, a quick flight to Florida, became one of the most stressful moments in my life. With that, there is a positive light to this that I'd like to share with you. A woman emerged from the back of the plane to help me. And turns out she was a mom of autism. And her son was sitting in the back with his earphones and he was having a good day. And she sat with me, she sat with Kyle, she calmed him down, she calmed me down. And as the man next to us prayed, true story. And with that, she sent me back to sit with her son and she sat with Kyle. We're still friends today. And I realized she was educated, she was knowledgeable, she was understanding, she was compassionate. And I realized we just need so much more of that in the autism world. And looking out today and seeing this and seeing what my amazing brother-in-law and sister-in-law began and started, it just blows me away. And I couldn't be more grateful that this event is leading to just that: compassion, research, education, empathy. As a mom of autism, we so need this. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And what a beautiful day. And thank you guys. This is unbelievable.
All right, that's why we do this. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out. We're not rushing. Just enjoy yourselves. What a beautiful afternoon, and we hope to see you again next year. Thank you again. Oh. Forgot the bell. All right, well, while we have some critical mass, let's just do a quick photo here. All right, that's what it's all about.
Okay, serious. The picture's only going to take 1 second if everybody comes together.